This episode is brought to you by Dime Media. Love supporting local, but looking to save? I've got the solution. Introducing the 2025 CNY Women's Network Members Card. This is your passport to exclusive year-round savings at over 35 amazing women-owned businesses across Central New York. Whether you're grabbing coffee, booking a spa day, or shopping a local boutique, using your members card means more than just discounts. You're empowering women, strengthening small businesses, and building a thriving community one purchase at a time. Want to see all the offers and partner spots? Head to cnywomensnetwork.com/members-card or click the link in our bio. And here's the best part. Join the collective by CNY Women's Network and you'll get your members card free with your annual membership. More details at cnywomensnetwork.com/membership. Let's grow together, one card, one connection, one business at a time. Hello, and welcome back to Cultivate CNY. I'm your host, Alex Canavan, and in today's episode, I am joined by Kristin Almasian and Anthony Rojas of In Architects. Anthony and Kristin are architects driven by design, innovation, and community impact. With over 25 years of combined experience, they've worked across diverse project types, from multifamily housing to adaptive reuse in commercial spaces, bringing client visions to life through thoughtful planning and cutting-edge technology. Anthony leads design strategies with a focus on clarity and collaboration, while Kristin specializes in BIM management and immersive virtual presentations. Both have served as leaders within AIA Central New York, advocating for the next generation of professionals and advancing architectural excellence in the region. In this episode, we dive into business, leadership, and their shared passion for design and architecture, the growth of Syracuse, and some fun projects happening at In Architects right now. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. In Architects, welcome to Cultivate CNY. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for today's conversation. I'm very nosy. So I feel like, having you two on, it's going to give me like full run of the mill. I'm going to ask you all the questions, what's going on in Central New York. I want to start off here though. What do you guys love most about what you do?
I love the variety. I love that we get to do like the firm that we are is like we focus on a variety of different project types. So every day is different and you get to design spaces that you can go and see because we do like to focus on things in Central New York. So, once it comes to life, like you can go be a part of those businesses or get to see, people live in the spaces, and that's really cool.
And for me, in addition to the variety, it's the pace in which we work. I'm one that I don't like to sit back and just kind of wait for things to happen. It's more of a what more can I do for either this individual client or the next one that may be coming? And, it's always trying to think of ahead, a few paces. And I think that's what keeps us moving. And as a small firm, a lot of our team members are of similar mindset, which allows for that flexibility and being nimble and being able to adjust at a moment's notice. So we get to do a lot more with a smaller, more efficient team. And I think that's something we look for when we hire the next employee. It's you got to be able to kind of move and keep along the pace that we're trying to maintain as a firm. And then in addition to that, it's getting to meet, new people, building a new client base, engaging with new different project types, feeling their energy and what they're wanting to accomplish with their development project, and making sure that we're able to extract as much information as we can to make this as personal for them or as public facing as they would like it to be, knowing that they are the developer and maybe not the end user, right? But they're providing a product to the market that is very unique to them, and we like for every project to express that uniqueness. We're not one that likes to kind of replicate upon something we've already done. It's how can we think of things a little differently? How can we grab inspiration from other elements to make this product unique to that end user or that client?
Yeah, I assume that you guys ask a ton of questions to reach this goal because just looking at your work, one of the things that stood out to me was how different everything looked. And I find that, when people are really good at what they do, especially in these creative industries, you can kind of recognize, who did what, right? Like, oh, I know who did that because everything maybe I'm not going to say it looks the same, but there's kind of the same influence. But I feel like you can tell that you guys put the client first and ask the client, make it about the client. And and that's why all the spaces are so different. But I can just also tell that everything is so intentional and is so spot on in terms of what this brand is or what the brand wants to be. So, what types of businesses or industries are influencing the way you're designing spaces in Central New York right now?
There's definitely a uniqueness that you want to draw out of that client. And many sometimes we begin with, oh well, what's trendy? What's happening now? And I think the biggest concern that we have and with many of our clients share is if we follow the trend is temporary, right? It's what's in now, but may not be what's in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. And a lot of our clients love to have incorporate that kind of timeless aspect to what they're doing because to turn over a space through construction is very expensive. And if you don't, if you're solving for just today, it may not be where that business wants to be in 10 years, right? So you want to be able to not only extract from them as an individual, but them as a company or them as a brand or them as a much larger, you know, um, network, and be responsive to all of those, right? All of that information. Not just take what you think is kind of in style now. It's really where is this going to go? How are they going to evolve, and how does the space evolve with them, right?
Yeah.
It leads to a much longer, deeper kind of connection and representation of who they are if you're able to kind of keep that balance and not just solve for what excites you today.
I can't imagine. I'm sure it's a really difficult line to toe,
Mhm.
knowing what will be a hit right now, but will also be something that lasts for the future
Mhm.
of the brand.
It's also so interesting to see like what the client brings too, because sometimes like I love hearing like when someone comes in, they have all these ideas, and I'm like, it's so fun to take like what they have in mind, and then also work with that timeless thing and like kind of put them together and like create this cool product that has like a combination of both, maybe some of the trends, but something that's also going to last for 20 years too, that still looks awesome.
Yeah. And many a times when you're extracting information, it's not just the client, but the operators of a space,
Yeah,
right? How
that
do
too.
they function? How do they utilize the space? Their perspective could be completely different than a higher level of a business owner, somebody who's actually in the day to day utilizing this space.
Mhm.
How they function? How do we minimize footsteps? How do we, make sure that what they need is much closer to where they are and kind of increase their efficiencies in what they're doing,
Mhm.
throughout the day. And that perspective may be completely opposite or different than the business owner, right, or the developer in some cases. So it's you need to have a variety of different backgrounds and interactions with that business, to be able to make it successful for everyone who engages it. And the ones that are more public facing, you need to engage the community as well, right? If you're creating on a housing project that your end user is the public, or you're providing, a community, you're designing a community center or something that is very public facing, you want to be able to engage with the neighborhood in which it's going to be constructed, because those users, the success of that project is very dependent on those users and how they envision utilizing that space and what's going to most benefit them, right? So if we are withdrawn from having that crucial piece of information at the start of what we do, then our project, no matter how much time we put into it, is going to be a miss, right? If you design something that's never utilized,
Hmm.
then we've failed at our jobs, right?
Yeah, like it can be the most beautiful
Right.
thing
Mhm.
anybody's ever seen, but it's
Yeah.
not, it doesn't make sense for
Yeah.
the user. So, I mean, it sounds like there's so many layers of, different things you guys have to consider when designing these spaces. What role does data play in your work? And, how often are you looking at data? And even like, what kind of data points are you looking at when making decisions like this?
I think with like let's just take one market for example, like the housing market right now. The data is based on what are our average rents going on right now. They continue to escalate and they continue to rise. Why is it that they're rising? It's because our housing right now, we have such a shortage of housing opportunities that the demand is outpacing the supply. So as the pricing continues to increase, it's only because we're not developing fast enough and providing additional housing stock. So there's a huge focus in that market right now to say the only way these rent prices are going to come down and to start to decrease is if we start to flood the market with additional housing options. If the rent, percentages of occupancy are still within the 90s and upper 90s percentages because there is no stock available, those property owners, all they're going to do is continue to raise the rent prices. So we have to flood the market right now, especially with everything that we're anticipating in this region, and make sure that we're keeping pace. And I think the data that's being put out there by the county and center state and everyone is they're saying we need to probably construct 4 to 5,000 units every single year. And right now, I don't think we're hitting that demand. We have to increase our pace in which developers are proposing projects because there is a high level demand for just housing alone.
Yeah. And what kind of units do you think are the most important ones for developers to be prioritizing right now? Because, I mean, just me being someone who's grown up here in Syracuse and has had a a little bit of an understanding around, generally like where are we at economically here? And we see these like luxury apartments being built downtown, like really nice spaces with all the amenities, right? And obviously the price for rent at places like that are more on the higher end. But do you think that that's what Syracuse needs right now, or do we need kind of a more of a mid-level apartment complexes that is hitting a different demographic there that's still giving people a nice safe space to live, but it doesn't have all the bells and whistles?
Yeah.
Because I don't know when at first a couple years ago when we did start seeing these luxury apartments start to go up, my first thought, to be honest, was why are they building those? Nobody has money here. Like, just growing up here, it's the job market has not really, I have not viewed it as something that was very full of opportunity, right?
Yeah,
So I that kind of confused me,
yeah,
but I also don't know
yeah,
all the things
yeah.
that you guys do.
Yeah. I mean, as new projects continue to be constructed, the occupancy rates continue to be maintained, at the levels that they've been prior. So the market is absorbing all of these luxury units, and I think there is a need for more, especially within the downtown corridor and then those that surround downtown. I think we're going to be able to maintain some of those levels, but I think you're right. We need a variety of different housing stock. It's not just luxury, but we shouldn't have a concentration of a housing type within, one neighborhood or one project. If there's a variety and making it a mixed income property or being able to have a variety of different offerings within a singular project, I think that balances who those occupants could potentially be and the community that you're serving all be contained within one project. It's not just one class or type of individual that can occupy this brand new project. The other thing you got to balance from a developer's perspective is cost of construction is so high that for them and what they're investing, their housing stock needs to be able to return a certain number, and it makes it much more difficult as those construction costs continue to escalate for them to be able to provide non-subsidized kind of grant supported type of projects, right? Which it just opens you up to another avenue and a different approach. Certain developers have very limited support needs for grants and subsidies and things like that, and others are very dependent on them. And their product offering at the end of the day, and their end users that they're trying to serve could kind of force one into taking one direction over another. So there's a lot of different factors, but you're right that the market will be able to support thousands of additional units. What those units are should be a variety, but the ones that we've seen that developers are kind of focusing more on is the smaller square footage, smaller footprint unit that still provides all of the building amenities, all of the spaces that an individual needs or a couple or family needs, but it's all done within less and less square footage and making projects way more efficient. They're being forced to build additional quantities of units within a project in order to make their project pencil out and the numbers work, right? So
Mhm. That makes
there's
sense.
a balance, right, that has to be made.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, I'm just making assumptions here, but I think we're seeing more and more people not coupling or maybe even not having families. So there's probably more need for individuals to have to just get an apartment, but get something nice with all the amenities because
Right.
it is nice to have those community spaces, the a gym and all the other things that we're seeing pop up at these nice apartment complexes
Mhm.
now. What are you guys seeing from like who is investing in Central New York right now? Are they from Syracuse or Central New York, or are you guys seeing investors come in from other areas that want to develop?
I think we have a great array of different investors. I mean, our clients span from the 30-year-old, brand new to the market, kind of hungry developer, all the way up to, the well-seasoned, who's been doing development in Central New York for decades. And they all see the opportunity within our market to continue to invest in this region, but it's gotten so elevated that it has started to attract many developers from outside of our bounds in Syracuse. Everything from developers as far as New York City and even from other states, right? That are all really focusing on the momentum that we're building and everything that we're anticipating, with the I-81's reconstruction to Micron's, investment in our area. And they're really starting to see all of these different, not only the semiconductor, market, but the drone technologies that are heavily invested in this area and other, tech sector based companies that are really investing from, you know, Utica and Griffiths all the way to Syracuse and kind of all throughout that are creating this tech corridor from Buffalo to Albany. And it's really opening eyes for developers that have never invested in this market to really pay closer attention and say, we got to capture this opportunity because it's there and it's, you know, believe it or not, a growing market. And nationally, there are studies from brokers that are showcasing that data that we are a growing market, and they do foresee that the needs are warranted. And for us locally, we need to be able to capture that and maintain that pace too to make sure that those opportunities stay here local. So.
Yeah.
This episode of Cultivate CNY is brought to you by, well, no one yet. But that's about to change. After 2 years of incredible conversations with Central New York's most inspiring leaders, we are officially opening the door to sponsors. That's right. If you'd like to support the show and get your brand in front of a loyal and growing audience, email us at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com to learn more about sponsorship opportunities. All right, back to the show. So, how do you think good design supports economic growth like the kind that we're seeing right now in Central New York? It's no secret that Syracuse is full of beautiful architecture, right? We have all these amazing historical buildings, but I feel like we're now seeing a surge in just people paying closer attention to the aesthetics and to the designs of things. Like we see the tech gardens improvements into the Inspire Innovation Hub. That's going to look amazing. We're
Mhm.
so excited about that. They're going to have like a roof deck, which
Yeah.
is so fun.
Yeah.
We need more roof spaces in Syracuse, even though it's been a really rainy spring. But why do you guys think good design is important for cities like Syracuse?
So we've kind of shifted to going from adaptive reuse projects and utilizing our historic base to be able to redevelop projects into new construction, and we're seeing more and more. Our inventory is basically very low for historic renovation projects because they've all been done over the last 10 years. Now, with new construction projects, we get to establish what is our design aesthetic. How are we presenting ourselves with brand new projects, right? Many of the projects that we've done recently is all internally facing with minimal kind of exterior renovations of these historic structures. But now we get to put our best foot forward and say, here's a new product offering. Here's a new vision for Syracuse. Here's what we envision our community to see and what's reflective of our community members, right? So with that comes a lot of responsibility. It's, us really saying, okay, um, how do we want to present ourselves? How are we rebranding ourselves as a community? What's the new face of Syracuse? And I think architecture is kind of one of those first steps in that, right? It's a branding opportunity for us. It's how do we present ourselves with brand new projects and get people energized for really capturing all the momentum that we're starting to experience? And how does that translate into space? How does that translate into occupying someone's time? Right? Everything that they do is done within space. So how is that space optimizing and making sure that um, your sense of feeling, your sense of place is kind of done responsibly and reactively to the community that you're serving. So it's a high level of responsibility, and we go back to kind of the do we have our own style and how do architects present themselves differently? For us, we don't have a style, right? We're the pencil in someone's hand, and really it's just a reflection of the end user, the site that we're putting a project in, the different conditions that all influence that project, and it really should be very responsive to that end user. And we try to take ourselves out of it as much as possible, because the more we put ourselves in, then that's when you start to really see the duplicative nature of of what a designer can do, because we all tend to kind of swing and sway into a certain direction because it's where we end up being more comfortable, right? In a certain style, in a certain aesthetic, in a certain detail. But when you remove yourself from that, then you open yourself up to really being responsive to um, the different clients and the different communities that we serve.
Yeah, I feel like good design, and we're just gonna, good design. What you guys do is great design, honestly. But I feel
Thank
like
you.
having that perspective, putting the pencil in the client's hand, it just through your work, you're able to display this level of just how diverse Syracuse really is, just from looking at the buildings. Diverse in perspective, diverse in tastes, and in needs too. So I love that philosophy.
Mhm.
What let's go back to in architects. You guys are a pretty new firm. What's the story behind that? How did this whole thing get started? You guys are small but mighty. So tell me a little bit more about
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so four of us are at a previous firm that focused a lot on like national projects that, were all over the country. And that was cool because you could go and visit different cities and things like that. But um, the three partners, and then they asked if I wanted to come with them. We're very focused on community things, and we saw that a lot was happening here, and that was something really important to us. So we decided that we wanted to kind of take this leap and kind of create a focus in a firm that, focused on things that were happening kind of around us so that we could go, be a part of these places and, bring more things to our community and things like that. So, In Architects was created. We've been in business for 6 years, and I feel like we're just growing and growing. We started with four, now we're up to 11.
Yeah. And for us, we get so attached to our work product that, being so distant from the projects we're working on previously, you don't build that connection that you thrive to have. It's the reason we do what we do. It's because it's you're building that connection and you're trying to witness the result of that work. How does the community engage your project? How are they responding to it? It's there's so many things that are learned from being adjacent to your work product that we weren't gaining that fulfillment,
Mhm.
having projects throughout the country. So for us, it's we can do this here. Why are we not being able to kind of utilize everything we're learning and understanding how all of the other markets that kind of surround us outside of New York State are responding to different project typologies and different types of spaces? And it's like we need to, be able to incorporate all of that data that we've kind of aggregated over the years and bring them home and have them within the projects and have a focus here on CNY, because we saw this early um, momentum that was being built, 10 years ago, and we saw and felt that something was going to happen, something was brewing, and you just kind of felt it, and projects were starting to grow in size and more dollars were being invested in redeveloping here locally. And it's like, okay, the timing is right. We need to be able to kind of take all of these influences that we've gained throughout the country and bring them here. And now that we're able to see all of these projects that we're working on kind of come to light and allow the community to engage it, it's so much more fulfilling, to see a rooftop bar that you worked
Mhm.
on Tip Hill and how it's engaged, at the Emerald. It's a great thing to just sit back and just enjoy, right?
Yeah, because when you go to all these other cities, there's always things that, you're like, I wish Syracuse could have. And now I feel like that's really becoming a reality because people are seeing that need for, places that bring a different vibe to the city and like make it, cool or whatever you want to
Mhm,
say is the right word. But I feel like that we saw, and I feel like that's why we love the firm that we've created.
mhm.
No, it's this resonates with me a ton just because it's very grassroots and you get to, you know, who else is better to work on projects like this in central New York than the people that are living here that are just as passionate about this product being used and loved and appreciated, right? So it's nice that you guys get to see things come to life and also enjoy them yourselves. But also, I really like that you guys had a desire to kind of help elevate this region through, some of the experience or things that you've seen in your work previously working on national product projects. Um, that's kind of like my goal with our annual summit that we host. I love going to like big summits and seeing, whenever I get the time in larger cities to see what's going on and what's happening at those events in larger cities and um, kind of bringing that experience to the women in Central New York because I think it's really all about what you see and what you are exposed to that makes the biggest difference because it's really just knowing what's possible. That's the first step to elevating a region or just simply elevating ourselves. Um, and so, yeah, I love this and it all resonates with me a ton. What have you guys learned just as people building a firm? I mean, it's a totally different role that you've probably put yourselves in. What have you guys learned about leadership over the years?
I think for us, it's for me personally, it's been all about the people and the employees and how we've engaged each individual at the right time. It's not searching for a certain skill set. It's not searching for what can I extract from this person, right? From as a business owner's perspective, it's when we go through an interview process, everyone in the firm interviews that individual. I need everyone to have buy-in. I need everyone to say, yes, I feel like I can work with this individual because it's more of a personal connection that gets built initially. If they don't fit the environment that we're going to place them within, then they're not going to thrive. So personalities and how people get along and all of that is very important during our interview process. And once we engage them, it's really, again, extracting information. What do they enjoy doing? What do they want to spend most of their time doing? Why am I going to pocket someone into doing something that I think needs to be done and just say, okay, you're doing this on repeat? And, you're not going to extract good quality work out of that individual. So we have to really search for where do their interests lies, where do their interests lie, what do they have fun doing, and how can we place them at the right time in the right project to be able to gain the most out of their involvement with it. And I think all of our individuals contribute in that way, and we've been able to get great work product and again work on a ton of projects being 11 people large. And one of
Yeah.
the biggest questions we get is how do you do so much with so
Yeah.
little, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
guys.
because of that too, we've created this culture that is not like obviously it's work, but to us it's work and it's fun. And it's because of this culture and like these individuals, that have become a part of our firm that make it fun. And it's not just something you go and do every day. Really enjoy doing it and love it.
Mm.
One of the most important things a leader will ever do is build a team. Like it's really all about the people that you're rallying to get involved in this movement. Um, what are some of your values at work? Like what are your top priorities when hiring someone to make sure that they are a good fit for your team?
I think We're such a collaborative industry that we need you to be a team player. We need you to be able to collaborate with people, be responsive to how they communicate. People receive information differently. If you don't, send that information in a way that they'll receive it, then lines can get crossed, messages could be reinterpreted. I can't tell you, how many times I've gone into meetings with certain individuals that you're hearing two completely different perspectives from the same conversation. And there is when you start to have to grab the parts and pieces and really understand, okay, this is what we heard, this is what they said, right? But how do you interpret that information to really extract the data and be responsive to the appropriate information that you've gathered, right? Because you can hear a lot of words could be spoken, but what's the message they're really trying to portray within those words? And having that ability to kind of decipher that information is huge, right? A lot of people can just listen for very surface level things, and what they're really intending and meaning is much deeper than the words you heard. So it's having individuals who are reactive and responsive to that, and knowing how to capture that information, because again, it just better informs our responsiveness to the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's emotional intelligence, right? But Anthony, I mean, like you're talking about all this stuff, and it just seems like it must have been an what you're talking about is curiosity and truly listening, right? But I have a feeling that these are things that are just come natural to you. You're just this guy that knows how to do all these things. Tell me a little bit more about like how did you grow up? Are you from Syracuse? Like how did your parents raise you?
Yeah. I'm first generation American. My mother's Cuban, my father's Bolivian, and they immigrated to New York City, and I was born and raised in the Bronx. And then when my grandfather decided to retire, he moved down to Miami, Florida, and my mother said, "We're going too." So ended up going down to Miami at the age of 12. And so I was raised down there in Miami, so surrounded by heavily influenced Hispanic communities of, immigrant families. And a lot of that influenced a lot of different people, a lot of different characters, a high level of energy, a high level of communication. There's always loud conversations, in the room, and you're having to listen to 10 people talk at the same time. And, in my mind, I wanted to be involved in all 10 conversations at the same time. So, how do you start to make sure you're paying attention to all of it at the same, in parallel, and be responsive to it? And I think that just kind of built up the ability, or the curiosity, or the drive to be engaged in all these conversations and to have a voice at the table. And I think my background and my perspective, offers a different point of view, but one that is seen, cross culturally. It's, there's a lot of similarities in the types of environments that we all inhabit, and how to be responsive to the community, and how to, be aware of all of the different perspectives at the table all at the same time, and being respectful of all of them at the same time. Um, I think that just, you had to build a sense of identity, but also being respectful of all the other identities that were, in that same conversation.
Yeah, it sounds like a balancing
Yeah,
act. You
yeah,
learned how to balance a lot
yeah. Mhm.
growing up in that culture, and now you've just have this effortless way of honestly like holding space for people, but still being a leader and still like knowing when is the right time probably to use your voice and speak up. But it really is all about listening. Is It's the more the further I get into this and what I'm trying to do, I'm like just listen, just be
Yeah,
present and listen. Kristen,
yeah.
what about you? How did you grow up?
So I'm born and raised in Syracuse, grew up in Liverpool,
Same.
and yeah, and I went to Alfred State College, so that was like really my only experience, kind of like stepping out of Syracuse, and I just feel like I've always loved where I've been, so I haven't left, and now I'm creating a family here, and I just feel like my family was always doing a lot of things here, like locally, like going to all the festivals or different events that were going on. And I feel like I just love doing that now as I create a family. Um, So I feel like that's why I've never left and I don't ever plan on leaving. And I just, yeah, love being here.
Yeah. Why do you think Syracuse or Central New York in general is a great place to live and have a family? Because I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it just offers a lot. Like besides, there's so many, we keep talking about the community, and that's very important. And that to me is like number one because I feel like I've lived in a couple different areas of Syracuse. And no matter where I've lived, it's like the best place to live. So it's fun seeing, like I lived on Tip Hill or I lived in Eastwood and now I live in Baldwinsville and I grew up in Liverpool. It's like every spot has like a cool places to go or things to do. And I feel like that's why I love Syracuse is because no matter where you're living, like it's not just downtown that has cool things happening. It's like also happening in all the suburbs and all that too.
Oh yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like each suburb is its own like borough,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah.
Mhm.
like its own little world. Like growing up in Liverpool, I now live in Morrisville, so it's very rural out there. And I have to, nothing is really out there. I have to drive a considerable distance to get to the grocery store and simple pleasures. And so I realized just how spoiled I was to grow up in Liverpool. But,
Yeah.
Liverpool is like one of those places where you don't have to leave Liverpool
Right.
to get anything.
Yeah.
Everything you need is right there. So I joke and say it's its own state.
Yeah. But what's also been cool to me too is like besides growing up, and having siblings, but now creating like a family with kids of my own, like you can also travel like 30 minutes down the road and like be hiking a trail and feel like you're in like a completely different part of, the state and it's only 30 minutes down the road. And
Absolutely.
there's just different areas besides just, your community to go to and experience like other enjoyments like nature or things like that.
Oh yeah, it's so like well-rounded.
Yeah.
This region is in general, and I didn't really get that growing up because my parents just went to work, went home, and just did the same thing over again. We weren't a very outdoorsy family by any means, so I feel like I'm kind of making up for that stuff
Yeah.
now through the CNY Women's Network. We've been doing these hiking meetups, and all these hikes. It's the first time I'm hiking these trails, but that's one of the reasons why I love what I do is because I get to kind of re-experience Central New York
Yeah.
through our events. But that's a really good point. And yeah, I love that you shared that. And I also love what This is CNY is doing. Their whole mission is to kind of showcase why it's so great to live here and be here. And um, that's super important, especially for the development of Central New York.
Mhm.
But you guys have a lot in the works right now. Lot of projects in the pipeline. What are you working on? What's one project you're working on right now that you're really excited about?
Oh, there's so many. I feel like we said, we do a variety, but to me, like I love working on all the restaurants and we have like a good amount in the pipeline here, like the Peacock Bar and Grill. It's gonna be really exciting. The Society, that's gonna be like a coffee and juice bar. It's just it's hard to even choose because like each one is so unique and I'm so excited for each one to come and just enjoy.
The peacock looks
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with that. And you know what? The brand itself, I'm so excited. I'm so just from a brand strategy standpoint, I think they did a really good job at just launching the brand and creating a really good product. Like they've been in two other spaces before, I believe, right?
Mhm.
The other spaces were great, but obviously nothing compared to the space they're going to be in designed by you guys.
Mhm.
But that being in a beautiful environment isn't super necessary at first,
Right.
right? For new brands.
Right.
You just need to get the product out there and get people obsessed with it, right?
Right.
And that's what the Peacock did
Right.
Mhm.
through their really interesting cocktails and the menu offerings and excellent customer service. I've heard nothing but great things about Peacock.
Yeah.
I have not had the pleasure of dining there yet, but I cannot wait to. But I think that it was so smart for them to just get it out there and naturally progress into this gorgeous space, which will be, I think, such a natural extension of the already incredible brand that they've built here.
Mhm.
The society sounds super interesting. Is this tell me a little bit more about the society. I've only heard a tiny bit, and I've only been able to see what you guys have posted
Mhm.
online.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that one's going to be a coffee and a juice bar. And the client's whole concept is that she just wants to have a collaborative space where people can come and not only get, their coffee and juice needs, but like make it like a community oriented space for business professionals or people that live in the area to like kind of come and, collaborate and have like a spot to do that in.
Is there gonna be, like, meeting spaces, like a co-working kind of vibe?
No, so it's all just an open concept. She has lots of different furniture arrangements where you can have, breakout spaces. And she has ideas of, it can be, an area to host like small events and things like that. So it's going to be really cool once it opens to see how it flourishes into something that the community and the city will use.
Yeah, it's a space for those informal meetings, those
Yeah.
opportunities to catch up with, a business relationship that just cross paths with walking down the street in downtown. It's coming and just having a space to just kind of calm yourself, re-energize, have an opportunity to just sit and have a conversation and network with like-minded professionals within the downtown urban environment. And see where those relationships kind of grow, and many of them start with a simple conversation. And she envisions this place to be that space for these conversations to initiate and grow.
Yeah.
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 And one of the projects I saw you guys working on, the Haraz Coffee House,
Mhm.
coffee lounge.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit more about that. There's some cultural influences there. It looks absolutely stunning what you guys have drawn up.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's an exciting project that's
Hmm.
currently under construction. It's right on the hill, and right on Marshall Street, and it's a Yemenis coffee house, and it's very, from a design aesthetic, culturally reflective of the operator and the product that they're offering the market. You may think it's just another coffee house, but really, I think their specific brand of coffee and their product is going to be unique to the market. Just from as basic to how they brew their coffee, and then just all their other product extensions. I think it's going to be a very welcomed, different coffee product within Syracuse,
Hmm.
and they hope to open here in the very near term, especially before the students come back for next semester. So they're well underway and hopefully serving the market here very soon.
I am a big coffee gal, so I can't wait to check it out,
Yeah.
especially just to see how the product is different than all of the other amazing coffee shops in Syracuse.
Mhm.
It seems like, just from my perspective, it's just going to be a very intentional space. I really like what you guys do, though, as you're able to kind of maximize every little area, and there's no need for anything extra or extra clutter. Like, do you guys have more of a minimalistic sort of approach to design?
I think it's reflective of the client. I think some clients want to leave as much open space for those who inhabit it to kind of develop and morph that space into what it wants to become. I think the Peacock took a little bit of that approach, where again they open up and they may not have a physical brand representation, to the T, but their product is what's at the forefront. And then they're allowing the community and how they engage and the type of environment they want to surround that product with to then be developed at a later date, right? So I think some of our projects that are maybe of more of a minimal approach have that perspective of they may not know exactly where they want to go, or they may have a variety of different pathways they want to take, and they allow for that openness to then be developed in the future, right? But then we have other clients that know exactly what they want, and it could be a second location for them, or it could be that they've been doing it long enough that they know exactly the product extension and the brand awareness that they want to create within the
Yeah,
built
or how they
environment.
operate and
Right.
like things have to go in a certain spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting perspective, though. I didn't think of it like that. Like this kind of leaving room for iterations and growth. Like when I was doing makeup, one of the things I would always say is it's better to add than take away.
Right.
So I would always do less and tell them to tell me, let me know if you want more. because
right?
it's always better to add than to
Mhm.
take away, especially if you're doing a winged eyeliner, right? And then the whole thing is shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like
Yeah,
that.
you go into a space like Harvey's Garden. And when we did that, when they first opened up, it was we need to get the product to market, we need to get the
Mhm.
people in the space, and we need them to engage it. And then slowly that space has developed into what it is today.
Yeah.
And they have all these different breakout spaces. They're now expanding their outdoors and their food truck offerings. And then they have Toss and Fire engaged in the space now. And then they have a secret private room in the back,
Yeah. And the
um,
upstairs.
and the
Yeah.
upstairs. And, it's flourished. And I think that flourishment was very responsive to how people engage the space.
Mhm.
Who are our guests? How long are they staying? What are they utilizing it for? And how can we respond to all of that and be able to provide a product that engages the most amount of people as possible?
Mhm.
And for them, it's they're a beer. Um, they serve beer, in this location, but they want to be able to have opportunities to have families and children engage as well. And what are the outdoor games? What are the food offerings? What are the extensions of what Harvey's Garden product wants to be able to engage as many people as possible, and then retain them for as long as possible. Right, the more time a person spends in the space, the higher the likelihood that they'll return, and the more dollars that are being spent within that facility as well. So I
Yeah.
think they did really,
And when
really
you
well.
go there now, yeah, it's every space is being utilized.
Yeah, no,
Like it's
I
always busy.
that's a really good example is Harvey's Garden. I
Mhm.
really like there's not a ton of dog-friendly places in Syracuse, and I really like that they made family a priority because you can still have, obviously like alcohol sales are huge for restaurants when it comes to profitability. So I think they've done a great job at not, building this out to be like a party place, but still have a product for everybody, right? And now, I see community organizations hosting events there all the time,
Hmm.
so they truly have been able to diversify the business enough to include everybody.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And so I just think obviously they're genius
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
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 Um, so I would love to know for the small business owner that isn't in the place yet to take on any sort of architectural designer work, but they want to kind of give their business a facelift, if you will, whether it's interior design or it's structural. How would you guys advise these small business owners to do that and to create a space that really works for their customers?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like any piece that you do to your business can elevate it or, help in some sort of way. So I feel like as we talk about all the variety of projects we do, that also comes in the variety of sizes that we do too, because that can come from just picking out new interior finishes for someone to building a brand new building. So I feel like it doesn't matter what the scale of the project is like we are always willing to, even just if it's give advice, I feel like we love doing that or we, have connections, we can connect you with people. But I just feel like we're always open to engaging with any individual that, sees that need to like help their business because I feel like that is important to us.
Yeah, one of the things that I think business owners are hearing right now from like Center State CEO and all these influential people telling us, get ready,
Mhm.
start you have that project that you've been wanting to work on in your business. The time is now, right? So I didn't know that you guys kind of have all these different scales when it comes to projects that you take on.
Yeah, I feel like we don't like market it as that way, but it like comes to us and I feel like we like it that way because like it's just this perpetual motion of just always, working on something new or meeting a new individual or setting them up with someone that can help them and, make their business better. So I feel like it's not something we, you know, are like broadcasting where, all of the things on our social media are like very visual and things that are actually happening, but like it just kinda comes to us, and I feel like it's good that you were saying this because I feel like people should know that we're open to anything, and we're open to just even having a conversation.
And that's how we started. I mean, we're only
Yeah.
6 years old, and when we first open our doors, we need to start building new relationships. We need to be able to make sure people understand we're here and what we're capable of. And we never turned a project away.
Mhm.
It was, no matter the size or the scale of it, we want to do a good job. That it now starts to build the awareness of who did that project, and are they capable of doing more. And today we're working on, the $60 million projects of, new construction, but we're still doing, the $50,000, renovation project that just revitalizes an interior space for someone. That's small. We see all those opportunities to be a reflection of who we are and the work product that we're placing out there, and are not placing any more or less importance on the individual, no matter the scale of their project. So, for
Yeah,
us,
that's a really good point too. It's like it's taken years of building these relationships to get to these amazing milestones of working on these massive products, but I think it's incredible that you still mix in all of the things and all the different kinds of clients.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're having an interesting conversation in the office right now, because when we first started, we placed, you know, certain milestones that we'd like to achieve, right? How big of a firm do you want to be? And day one, you have these conversations. Okay, what's your target, right? And we always said 10 to 12 is our target number. And that's where we want to get to. And it's large enough to do some great projects, to have the capability and the horsepower to be able to, move on the large scale projects. But then maybe have can be a little more selective on the project, the types of projects you take on, to make sure that the values are aligned between client and architect and contractor and all the different consultants we work with. So we're there now, right? We're 11. And so our internal conversations are, well, are we shifting to another milestone? Or are we adjusting to say we want to focus on maybe aligning project types to be a little more selective, right? I think we have so much fun, an equal amount of fun doing the small projects as we do the large ones, that I think
Mhm.
it's going to be difficult letting go of that. And it's difficult. We're not we're not the type of people that no comes very easy to, right? Like we hate responding with the word no. Like it rarely comes out of our mouth. So when somebody asks for help, it's always yes. How can we be a part of it, and what can we do to help you? Kind of get to where you're going.
Which is
And
probably why you guys have been so successful, right?
mm,
Is this very generous nature and this true desire to help,
yeah,
no matter what you can get out of it,
yeah,
right? And I think that there's so many people starting businesses right now, or at least have since the pandemic, right? We've seen so many of these small businesses pop up, and I think it's largely because people want more control over their time, their environment, and their financial futures. But I also think in the same vein, people want to all these choices, like right off the bat. They want to start a business and they only want to work with the clients, these high end, high ticket clients, right? But I love stories like this, and I love that you're talking about this, because there has to be a build up. You have to there is a period of time when you do start the firm that to where you have to prove yourself, right?
hmm
There's times where you do have to work for free, and to build that portfolio, right? So
hmm
like as a makeup artist, like I liked that you were talking about how you just took on really whatever came your way when you guys started the firm. And for me, I think at the time, when I started my makeup business, there wasn't a single well, I didn't have an option to turn people away. I was working at a makeup counter. So,
hmm
yeah,
hmm
you know what I mean?
yeah,
But of course, when it came to promoting my product, there wasn't a single makeup look I didn't post. If I did someone's makeup, I
mm
posted on Instagram.
mm
That was that. That was my rule with myself. So even if I wasn't obsessed with the look at the end, or I didn't think it was my best work, all that it mattered was that I was working with people and I was putting it out there. And it was that quantity, that I think gave me the credibility and the ability to grow my business so quickly.
mhm.
um and I think that's something that is kind of missing in a lot of businesses that we're seeing, especially like brands that pop up that are just automatically a luxury brand.
Mhm,
It's like, how did you get there? How did you prove yourself to be a luxury brand, right?
mhm.
So it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, as
Yeah,
we all know. But
yeah.
Um, is there like a dream project or a dream client that you guys would love to work with here in Central New York? Or at least something that you want to see here in our community that hasn't happened yet?
No.
For me,
Anthony knows.
Yeah, he
no,
knows
no,
them.
no. It may not be, a specific project type. For me, it's just I'm gonna tap Tom Brady on this one. It's the next one. It's for us. It's what's next. It's and again that speaks to not wanting to sit still, having the urge to see what else is out there, to learn something new, to you know not duplicate what you're used to doing, and having to do additional research, having to trip and fall, having to have conversations that you've never had before, and feeling comfortable enough to say, well, I may not know now, but let me tap somebody who does. And assembling the right team to tackle a new project type that we've never had experience for. And that just continual sense of learning and wanting to build that knowledge base up. And we're going to do it till the day we retire, because there's so much to know and learn in the world of architecture, that if you're not content and seeking and happy with taking that path and continually learning, then you're not going to be happy in this profession. Like, that's just something that you need to have an urge for. You need to be able to be happy in that constant place of learning.
Yeah, curiosity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say what would you say are the most important things to be popping up or developing here in Syracuse right now? Would you say housing?
I think housing is probably the biggest market. That's probably the first in line.
Mhm.
It's giving people a place to live and be able to turn to. And right now, our stock is so low that, yes, that's probably the first market to have to hit the ground running and increase the pace in which we're doing it. We've got a couple projects going on right now from start to finish. Everything as young as student housing, and a project we have going up at 1405 East Genesee Street. It's taking an underserved property and placing as many student housing units within it to be able to serve Syracuse University and that neighborhood. And there's still need for housing, especially from the student market, but doing it in a way that differentiates it and creates a higher quality product for the end user, right? Many of the new construction projects you see popping up aesthetically may not be placing the bar where Syracuse may want the bar to be placed, right? Are these projects really reflective on that new brand and vision of who Syracuse is being capitalized on with these new projects? Or are they slightly, underwhelming? And how do we learn from that? How do we, continue to push the bar a little higher and a little higher with the next project to make sure that we arrive to where we want to be and have a space that's reflective of our values and the quality of life we want to provide? And we try to achieve that with this project and some of the renderings we shared. It's, can we use a higher level quality of material? Can we divide the building up a little differently? Could we make it so that it aesthetically is more pleasing to not only the pedestrian as they walk by, and engaging more of that street front, perspective to the person who may be driving by at a much higher pace, and but still having that level of impact and engagement with a project. And you've got to really look at a project from all those perspectives.
Mhm.
And then another project type, is Manlius Senior Housing on High Bridge, and the site is beautiful, and it's kind of nestled in this old rock quarry. So you've got kind of this 100-foot ridge on the backdrop, and the building kind of follows the contours that are existing within the landscape. But it's serving a senior population within the town of Manlius, that there's a huge population of not only snowbirds, but people who may not want to maintain their large single family homes and are looking for the next spot, but they have so many relationships in the community, they don't want to leave Manlius, right? So if there's no apartment unit for them to move into to be able to say, I'm just relocating within my same town, then many times they end up leaving Central New York altogether and finding a place that's, much more distant. But if we gave them a location to move into that provides all the amenity spaces, just the right amount of space that they need, be adjacent to other community members of similar places in their life, to build that new sense of community with new relationships, then not only does it create an open single family residence for a new family to move into the town and take advantage of all the, educational opportunities and things that are afforded for being in a town like Manlius, but it also keeps that community member within the community, and it keeps those relationships there, which is really important. So building up all different types of housing to meet all different types of needs are important throughout all of Central New York right now.
What areas in Central New York do you see on the rise right now? Because, like, personally, I feel like the Inner Harbor is kind of having a moment where Cafe Blue is. They just expanded to their new space. Sapphire Recruitment is going to be moving in there as well. And
Mhm.
I go to the gym over there too. And I didn't even know there was like a running trail back behind that area, but it was gorgeous. I was like, oh, wow, didn't even know this was back here. I also don't run. So I only run when I go to those classes. But I think, yeah, the Inner Harbor is having a moment. And I lived in Tip Hill like 5 years ago. Don't get to get over there all that much anymore, but I was there a few weeks ago and I just was kind of taking a look around and just noticed all of the renovations that are happening on some of those historical houses. So gorgeous.
Mhm.
But also some new builds that I've seen pop up too.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
kind of loving that. I
yeah,
love the Tip Hill area.
yeah.
Me too.
No, those two areas are definitely prime for development, especially the Inner Harbor. There's a lot of projects in the pipeline, some of which we can't talk about, that are getting ready for the Inner Harbor. All that work is already happening on I-81, making sure that thoroughfare is open and connected with that neighborhood. The aquarium is already under construction. There's a lot of new projects that'll be popping up there, and outside of downtown, it's a great first spot to kind of increase density and development. I think as 81 continues to be done, the next phase of any available land through the I-81 corridor that becomes available, starting from the Blueprint 15 project all the way through downtown that connects to the Inner Harbor, that entire kind of corridor that interconnects all of that 81 work, should hopefully spur increased development and availability of land and increased investment dollars within that kind of corridor. So I think if there's anything that's targeted, it likely will be in those areas, not only because of availability, but it's also proximity to other existing businesses or networks or healthcare systems or educational campuses that can help kind of reinforce and engage those corridors to increase development and allow for that new interconnected kind of corridor that was so vehicularly oriented become more of a pedestrian
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Syracuse is going to look and feel like
Mhm.
once all this is done. It'll
Mhm.
be, I mean, totally different than the Syracuse I've grown up with.
Yeah.
What about like rural areas? Are there any rural communities that you're kind of are should be expecting an increased population in the next 5 to 10 years?
I don't know how rural you're
Well,
thinking,
like
but
Morrisville.
okay.
I'm like, please, people. Like, well, I was talking to my fiance who's friends with a big developer that mentioned that the town of Nelson, which is like a hamlet basically,
Mhm.
Nelson and Morrisville are expecting more homes to be built and stuff, and in Morrisville and Nelson, it's much more common for people to build their own house. So to see kind of these housing developments get built will be really interesting, to see how that changes
Mhm.
those areas. But that's where I live,
Yeah.
and we could really use some more people.
I think New York State is doing a good job kind of identifying these smaller communities with their DRI, downtown revitalization initiatives, to fund kind of startup projects and development projects to see if they can create a little, nucleus of energy in terms of development that can hopefully, spur additional growth. They started with awarding the Syracuses, and then they went and started to award the Ciceros and the slightly larger towns. But then they're going even smaller, right? It's now you're seeing um, the Morrisvilles and the kind of really small markets having some of these funds available to them to spur development. So I think you're going to see growth throughout the region at large.
Mhm.
The difficulty with that growth is availability of infrastructure and making sure that all of the services that are needed within that development are accessible, right? The amount of power, the amount of water, the amount of sewer, everything that is required for those developments to occur. Many times it's very expensive to create new thoroughfares, right? And new systems to be able to reach some of these
Yeah.
available land
And even transportation,
and
which is a
transportation.
huge issue, I think, for
Right.
near us.
Right.
I mean, you're in a food desert when a Dollar General pops up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're like on it. Or a Burned Dairy. I mean,
Yeah.
Burned Dairy has been popping up everywhere
Yeah.
near us. But yeah, we're seeing they're working on supposed to be a really nice boutique hotel in Cazenovia.
Mm-hmm.
Really excited to see how that turns out because we don't have like boutique hotels here
Yeah.
in Central New York. So that'll be cool.
Yeah.
I think the parents at Colgate were complaining that there was nowhere nice to stay.
Mm.
But even the town of Hamilton the funding there is coming from the alumni,
Mm.
but there's a really nice luxury apartments going up, and there's going to be a nice steakhouse in the first level of it.
That's
So that
great.
should be interesting.
Yeah.
And I think Colgate itself is actually working on increasing occupancy. They're trying to welcome, I think, at least 1,000 more students.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just crazy to see the growth happening truly everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everywhere you look, there's growth.
Yeah.
And just being from here and just being, just so passionate about seeing this region do well. It's just like I feel like I can breathe again. I feel like there's so much hope, especially as a young professional that has no plans on leaving, but wants to have a really awesome career
Mm-hmm.
here. It's just, I think the possibilities are endless, and I'm just excited for what's to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to affect all markets, all places of work. I think it's going to create new opportunities, kind of across the board. And I am excited for the parents who are looking to entice their children to stay,
Mhm.
knowing that they have all the same benefits of staying local as they would moving to another city. And, my daughter's 10 right now and two other boys behind her. And it's like, I hope we're there by the time they have to make a decision to say, no, you can stay home and get everything you need here. And the quality of life here is so much different, so much better, and from our perspective.
Yeah.
And it's why we moved here and intend to stay here.
Yeah.
That we want them to be able to have that same perspective and not feel the urge to say, okay, well, what am I missing out on? Let me go experience that elsewhere. And I think we're going to have an opportunity to create that here. I think we will get there. It's just, when is the question.
Yeah. When is the question, but also, us as business owners and leaders, like what are we doing every day to make make the right decisions so that we can set ourselves up and the region up for success so we can sustain all of this, because that's the thing. It's one thing to bring these investments in and these industries in, but it's a whole other ballgame to sustain it and make sure people don't leave because there's no infrastructure to support it.
Right.
So it's going to be an interesting next few years here, and I'm sure you guys are going to have your work cut out for you.
Yeah.
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 Excited.
We're very excited for it. Yep. Preparing for it, and got to capture the moment when it comes. And we think it's here, but it's only going to get, better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the time is now. Where can people find you, connect with you, or get in touch with you guys?
So we're big into Instagram, so you can connect with us on Instagram or LinkedIn. We have our website.
We'll be sure to add all the links in the show notes. If you guys are not following these guys on social media, what are you doing? You have to follow them, especially if you're nosy like me and you like to know what's going on. These guys, they post all of their designs and all the fun projects they're working on. So you can see what's happening in Central New York if you give them a follow. And yeah, thank you guys for joining me. This was a great conversation.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
We appreciate being here, and congrats on everything that's going on with you as well, and all of your momentum. And it's great to see this new network coming to life, and building from here. So we're excited to be a part of it.
Thank you guys so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
All right.
Whether this is your first time tuning in or you've been listening since the beginning, I do not take it for granted. When I started this podcast, I honestly didn't know where it would go. I just knew that I wanted to have real conversations with people doing meaningful work right here in Central New York. 2 years in, this still feels like a dream, but I also know that we are just getting started. If you enjoy what we do here, please join the 32% of people who tune into the show regularly and follow us on this app. And here's my promise to you: I'll keep showing up with my whole heart. I'll keep inviting guests who inspire me and asking the questions that I know matter most to people like us, people building something right here in CNY. So thank you for being a part of this.